Hello. Today I'm gonna show anyone who's watching how to crochet a dishcloth. This here is the dishcloth that I made. As you can see, it looks like the 4th of July. But I will show you what you need. The first thing you're gonna need is some Lily sugar and cream yarn or peaches and cream yarn. I think that peaches and cream is kind of the cheap brand of Lily sugar and cream. And it usually shows on the actual label. You can see there. No, you can't see it too good. Okay, well, it says to use an H-sized hook. Yeah. And this here, as you can see, which you still can't see, it's an H-sized hook too. Anyways, that is what we'll be using today. You will need your hook, which mine's a really pretty purple. You can use this, or you can use the crochet hook, which this is a plastic sewing needle. You can use this, or you can use a crochet hook to weave in your ends. Most of the time, I use my crochet hook to weave in the ends. And of course, a pair of scissors. The dishcloth that I made before was made out of single crochets. As you can see, I wove in the end, one of the ends right here. But yeah, what we're doing is single crochet is all we're doing. And I do my single crochets a little bit different than everybody else. And it creates this really tight stitch. Alright, you're gonna take your hook, good old H hook. You're gonna take the yarn, and I'm gonna teach you how to do a slip knot. So what I like to do is I usually take 3 of my fingers, wrap it around, kind of in this cross-like formation, okay? And we're gonna slide it up under the first one, pull back the second one, and you have a slip knot. And you're just gonna take it and pull it like that. I usually take it and then stick it back through because I don't have it on the right side. And for our dishcloth, we are going to chain 23. So it's good to unravel some of the yarn so you won't be constantly pulling it, by the way. Okay, so when you chain, what you do is you take the yarn, put it between your 2 fingers, wrap it around, and pull it through the slip knot that you just created. So there's 1, 2, 22, and 23. Okay, so you have your chain of 23, I'm sorry. You have your group of 23 chains. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna go back through see the chains, the top part, you're gonna go back through the middle of them, which I'll show here in a second. And it's good to count your stitches to make sure you have the right amount. Since I've chained 23, I should have 22 chains. So this one right here, we are not gonna be going into because that's the end of the chain. We're not going to be going into that one. So we're not going into the one that's actually on the hook, but we will go into the next one. So like I said, as you can see, the little top part of the chain you're going to go into the middle of. So you're not going to go into this one, but you're going to go into the next one. And what you do is you take the yarn, which once again, my single crochet is different than other people's, I believe, but mine works too. They usually wrap it around and pull it through, I believe, but we're not doing it that way, we're going the other way. So you're gonna take the yarn and wrap it around the hook, like that, and you should have 2 chains on the hook. And you're gonna take it and wrap it around going the other way, so like that. And there's 1 chain. As you can see, this here is the one you just went into, the one that has the hole, the bigger hole. So there's one. We're gonna go into the next one, wrap it around, pull it up. We have 2 chains. So pull it back through. So there's 2 we have so far. And you're just gonna keep on doing that. Okay, and there is our 22 chains of single crochet. Okay, once you get to, it's always good if you're a beginner with crocheting to count your stitches and keep track of them. That way you know that that way you don't find a hole later on from a stitch that you forgot to do. So after we do our first row, let me unravel some yarn here. And it's okay if your stitches don't all look the same. If you're a beginner, that is completely normal. I've been crocheting for a long time and that's why mine look good. It's gonna take a little bit to figure out like how tight you should wrap it, you know, and to figure out what works for you. So it's okay if your stitches look kind of funny at first. It takes some time and experience to get really good. It took me, I think, 3 good times to figure out how to actually crochet. So it takes a little bit. So you can see your 2 loops right here that you just went through for the last single crochet. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna chain 1. So you take the yarn, put it between your 2 fingers, wrap it around, and there's your chain 1. And you're gonna take this and flip it over. So flip it over like that. And this time there isn't gonna be 1 stitch that you're going through. I'll explain what I mean. Instead of going through, the first row is only, you're going through the middle of the 2 chains, or the middle of the chain. This here, when you actually go through, you're gonna be seeing 2 chains. See? Right there is 2 chains instead of 1. That's just from the first row of single crochet that you did. But you're going through 2 now instead of 1. There's the best way to explain it. So you're gonna wrap your hook like you did for the first row. You got 2 on your hook. You're gonna go back through them. And as you can see, the hole's bigger because that's just the one you went right through. You're gonna keep on doing that. Make sure there's 2. That way you make sure that you have the whole stitch on your hook. Keep on wrapping around. I'm sorry. Keep on single crocheting. So we have done 2 single crochets so far. So this will be the 3rd one. Once again, make sure that you have 22 stitches because that's what you should have. And once again, just keep on going through the chains and just doing the single crochets. So that's 14 stitches. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go in between these chain spaces. I didn't really explain that good. I explained it with the chaining, that you're supposed to go in between the middle of the chains. But on the 2nd row and the rows right after that, you need to look for these little spaces and so you can see them. And you're supposed to go into them. Sorry, I didn't explain that good. My bad. And this one's usually the hard one at the end, but just like the other ones, you should have 2 that you're going to chain right through. And this will be 22. Alright, after you have your 2 from your last single crochet, of course, as I said, you're going to chain 1. And you're just going to keep on doing it that way. So once again, you should have 22 stitches whenever you go through it. And we'll do a couple more rows together. It can be hard at first to figure out where the chains are, but like I said, there's a hole that they're supposed to go in. So you can see the chain right there, and you're going to stick it in that one. Make sure that it goes fully into the chain, so they're supposed to have 2. And this will be our first one. So 1. 2. And 22. Once again, oh, I didn't explain. These 2 loops that I was talking about at the end of the chain, they're from the last single crochet. That's just to show that you've done the last single crochet. So we have 2 from the last single crochet, so let's chain 1. And we're going to flip her over. And you're just going to keep doing that until you get the amount of rows that you want done. Okay, sorry. I couldn't actually show it really good. Do the amount of rows that you want to do before you do your border. That's the good idea, because we're going to do a border literally around the edges, which it's just single crochet, but just do it at the length that you want to do it, and then we'll do a border around it. All right, let's do one more row together, and I'm going to explain it again, just in case someone's still a little bit lost. All right, there's 2 here, and that's from the last single crochet we did, so we're gonna wrap around, chain 1, and flip it over. And once again, in case I didn't explain it good before, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go into the chain spaces, make sure that you have 2 on your hook, try to make sure that the yarn stays at least kind of tight, that way the stitches aren't too loose. And we're going to go into this first stitch, and there's our 2 little things for our stitch. We're going to wrap it around and pull it through, and there's 1. 2. 3. 22. And we should still have 22 because we chained 23. We should always have 1 less than what we chained. So if you decided to chain 24, you should have 23 chains that you're going into, because we never go into the one on the hook at the very beginning. Always remember that. So we have 22 because we chained 23. So 2, and we're going to chain 1 and turn it over. And I will meet you guys back here when I get done doing the amount of rows that I want to do for my dishcloth. I tried to have it somewhat close to how big my other dishcloth was before I do the border on it. See, it's kind of close. So we're gonna do the border around it. By the way, I didn't really explain how you should go about doing your dishcloths. What I usually try to do is to make sure that I can fold them good. Like you can fold them into, like, you can fold them twice, and you have a dishcloth that looks about a good size, in my opinion, if you can fold it twice and it look the way it does. But after, once again, I forgot to mention something else. You're gonna have these weird looking ruffles off to the side. That's just the way the single crochet looks until you do a border around it. And it does try to curl up sometimes too, but don't worry about that. I didn't think about mentioning that till now. But what we're gonna do is, for the border, we're gonna go back through the row. Well, you're gonna finish the last row that you were gonna do, before you do the border. And we're going to go back through this chain again. We're going to add another row to what we've already done. And we're going to go around in a circle. So we should still have 22. So let's go back through. And we're just going to go back through. So we should still have 22 chains. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 22. We have 22. All right, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it to this side. After we did that row here up here, we're gonna flip it. And what I usually do is I try to kind of go in between some of the spaces. I sometimes try to go in between like 2 loops on the edges, but you don't have to. So like the space, it ends like right here. So maybe just try to go through that part of the edge. See, there's 2 loops on the hook, and just single crochet through that. So we're done right here. We can go through this space right here. If it'll let me do it. And once again, I got 2 loops. And we're just going to single crochet again. And we just went through here. Just went through there. So let's go into this space right here. This little bitty space. And there, you can go through this part of the edging too. See, get 2 loops on your hook. And you can also go through this space right here. And see, you got a little curly edge right there. Alright, so we went through here, so let's try to go through that. 2 loops right here. The border does not have to be perfect. This is just the way I do the border. Kind of gives it a good look around. Once again, though, it does not have to be perfect. You can just kind of slide it through some of the edging. And you're just going to keep on doing that. Put it through some of the single crochets that you've already went through. The bottom, though, will be a little bit different. I'll show that here in a second. But yeah, you're just going to keep on going through. Looks like there's a space right there. Like I said, when you look through the edges, sometimes there's like there's an empty space like right there you can go through. Not that there's not there, but if there's a way to go through 2 loops, it's good to go through 2 loops. But you can also go through some of the spaces on the edge. And this one right here, we're just going to go completely through the whole stitch, or through the part of the edge, which once again it looks like it actually is 2 loops. So, oh, I am so sorry, I did not mention this is single crochet. You're doing single crochets just like the rest of the thing. You're just doing it in a circular motion around the dishcloth. Sorry. If for some reason you ever get aggravated and you want to redo a project, the good thing about crocheting is that you can unravel. So if you mess up a stitch or something, you can just undo it and come back to it. So that's something good to keep in mind. Alright. And we just went through here. Just went through there. So let's try to get 2. And we got 2 that we can just single crochet through as well. Alright, and this is what you should have so far. You have a straight edge here, a little bit of a curve right there, and just a kind of edge around. Alright, when you get to the next side, this is where things are a little bit different than the other side, two sides that we're going to do. The side with the edging, this one here, and that one are going to be the same. But this one here, what we're doing is we're going back through the first single crochets that we crocheted. Okay? So what we're going to do, we just went through this loop here. Let's go through this one. Okay. Alright, so we just went through this one. So what you're going to do is you're going to try to go up under the first single crochets that you did and see if you can have 2 each time. See, as you can see, there's 2 little loops on the hook, and that was one of the first single crochets that you did, and we're just going to single crochet through them. So there's that one. We're going to try to go up under this one. You got another 2, and just keep on doing it that way. Another 2 loops, another 2 loops, and you're pretty much done with that row. So once again, you have this row that you just did down here, and it should have a little curve, and this one right here that you just did that also should have a little curve. So we're gonna go into this next one, and I think it looks like 2 as well. Alright, and we're going to go into that one. And let's flip it over again. Now, we are going to do the very last row of our dishcloth. Alright, so we're going to do this row just like we done the other one before the last one. So since we just done right here, this looks like kind of an empty space. We'll just single crochet through it. Like I said, everyone has their own way that they do borders. This is just the way I do mine. I just go back through the single crochets that we've already done. That's just the way I do mine. Alright, we just went through this one right here. So let's see if we can get 2 stitches. Alright, we got 2 stitches. And we're going to single crochet through that. Okay. Just went through that one. So let's go through, just went through that one. Let's go through this space here. Alright. Alright, we just done that one. Let's go through this little chain space, or this little space right here. Alright, and we're just about done. Alright, usually I go around and whatever, but I think we're going to try to slip stitch into this first stitch to see if we can't get a curve like these. Most of the time when I do it the other way, the last edge is kind of more straight, and I think it's just the way that I do it. So let's see if we can't just slip stitch into the next one. So we went through this one here, and what we're going to do is since we started right here on this row, we're going to slip stitch into that. So, let's see, this here should be the first stitch, yeah. Okay, let's slip stitch into this first one. See, we stopped here. Let's slip stitch into this first one, and in case you don't know what a slip stitch is, what it is you take the yarn, you go into the stitch that you want to pretty much close off, or, well, that's not the best way to word it. I'll just explain the slip stitch. What we're going to do is we're closing off the dishcloth, and we're going to tie up our ends and weave them in. So this is the last stitch that we're going to go through, which looks like the beginning stitch. So we're going to take our yarn and wrap it around. We're going to pull it through that first stitch, and then we're going to pull the same loop we pulled through the first stitch through the next stitch, or the last loop on the hook. Here, I'll explain that one more time to where it makes sense. Alright, so we went through here. This should be our first stitch right here. We're going to go into it. we're going to wrap our yarn around, going this way, and we're going to pull it through that loop, our first stitch, and we're going to pull it again through the loop that was on our hook. Gosh, it still didn't make a curve like I wanted it to. Oh well. Okay, so we got all that finished, and we're gonna, you can just pull the yarn pretty far. Well, some people chain one. What I do is I'll just pull it through. You're gonna pull it through, and then you're gonna cut it. I hope I made that make sense. Okay, and here's our dishcloth. Once again, like I said, that one edge I didn't get perfectly right, so that's kind of a bummer. I was hoping maybe doing it a little bit different might be better for it, but oh well. So, and you have two ends on the very end of the dishcloth. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie them up, and we're going to weave them in. So what I like to do, you can use your sewing needle, or you can use your crochet hook. I usually use my crochet hook just because it's easy. Sewing needle, unless I'm doing something for an amigurumi, or, you know, a stuffed crochet animal, or anything, you know, like any stuffed crochet toy of any kind, I usually use a sewing needle for that. But if I don't have to, then there's no point. So the loop is coming out on this side. So what I like to do is I like to just grab a loop with my crochet hook, and I'll take the end that we have, and I'll pull it through that loop that I pulled up. And I will tie it. I'll take this part of the end that we just wove through. I'll take this part of the end that we just wove through and push it back through that loop that I just made. And then pull it tight. Make sure it's on there good. And tie it a couple times. So 1, 2, which 2 looks like it's pretty good. 3 probably would be better, so we'll go ahead and do 3. I don't want to have too much of a big knot, so there's 3. And we're going to take it and we're going to cut it. We're going to take the end and we're going to cut it. Okay, we're going to weave that in here in just a second, but let's go ahead and do the other one. You're going to do the same thing with the other one. Or at least this is how I do it. You're going to pull up a loop. You're going to take that end there and pull it all the way through. You're going to take that end that you just pulled through. You're going to stick it back through the loop that you just made with your hand. You're going to pull it tight, just like you did the other one. And once again, let's tie it in a couple knots. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And once again, let's cut it. Which you can actually cut it shorter than that. It doesn't have to be that long. It's kind of long. What I like to do as far as weaving in my ends is I'll just go through a couple loops nearby and kind of just weave them in. So once again, I'm taking my crochet hook and kind of trying to pull up a couple loops, which is sometimes hard. Goodness. Sometimes it is good to have a crochet hook around, just in case you can't. If you're like me, you're struggling to pull up the loops. Alright, we got through a couple there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just taking my end right here and pulling it through these 2 loops here. Alright, and you can just continue doing that, pull it through a couple loops. Like I pulled it through a couple. Right here I pulled it through some there. We can pull it through some more. Once again, like I said, you're just going to take it and pull it through these loops. Alright, that one's at least decent. It ain't got to be perfect. And obviously when you do wash these, they the ends will come back out unless you maybe put them on a gentle cycle. For me, the ends usually do come out when you wash them. Alright, so we got that one covered up pretty good, so let's do this other one. And once again, we're just going to try to take it and put it through some loops, just to kind of put it up. Okay. Once again, like I said, it ain't gotta be perfect. Like that one's pretty good where it's at, in my opinion. It ain't gotta be absolutely perfect. You can try to get it as good as you want to, though. Alright, well, that should be good. And you can fold it and use it. Okay. And there is a crochet dishcloth. See the curved edges and everything. You can actually wash your dishes with this. It can be machine washed and dried, both. But the first time you use them, like if I was gonna go wash dishes with this one right after I made it, some of the dye does sometimes come out in the dishwater, so just keep that in mind. But this is really a good yarn to use for dishcloths. And I will say, I'll go ahead and warn you too that if you do wash it, sometimes the ends try to come out, obviously, because it's crochet, and it's crochet, you know. Sometimes they'll knock the ends out of the yarn. And later on down the road, they do unravel. I did have one that unraveled, but I think I'd had it a long time, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, here you have a crochet dishcloth, and a very tight stitch crochet dishcloth. Keep in mind that if yours does not turn out good the first time, it is completely fine. You know, it takes a good while to get good at crocheting. You know, it really does. It takes a lot of practice. Some of the stuff it took me a good couple times to get good. But yeah, this is a pretty blue dishcloth, and I hope that I'm sorry if this video is a bit of a mess, because it was kind of back and forth. I just wanted to make sure I covered as much ground as I could. But the further I got along, some of the stuff I kind of remembered after I had done filmed that part of the video. But still, I hope that this is a good tutorial, and I hope it teaches you how to crochet a dishcloth. And yeah. Alright. I hope everybody has a great night. Right now it's night when I'm filming this, so have a good night. Thanks for watching. I really hope this video helps you to crochet. And if my tutorial's not the best, there are other tutorials out there that you can watch as well that might explain things better. Just gonna say that. And yeah, bye.